It noticed me. Enough!
They told us not to walk the river road at night. We did anyway. Orders. My name is Jack Harper. I was 21, the winter of '69. New boots and country. 2 months and a handful of bad dreams old. I'm telling this now because, after all these years, when it rains, my radio still makes a sound I can't explain. We had a Jeep for part of the way, but the last stretch to the village ran along a narrow levee that couldn't take wheels. Captain wanted medicine picked up before dawn. 4 of us humped it. Me, Corporal Briggs, Sanchez, and Doc Taylor. The map called the path a service road. It was a thread of packed mud, laced with puddles and slick with rotten leaves. On our right, dark jungle, bamboo clacking like bones. On our left, the river, wide and slow, as if it had all the time in the world. It's just spit, Briggs said about the drizzle. Not even rain. Don't be a baby, Harper. I wasn't being a baby. I was trying not to slip into the river. The bank fell off fast, a knifed edge that vanished into black water. You could smell it. Old silt, fish, something sweet and rotten. Sanchez walked behind me, humming under his breath. He hummed when he was nervous. Old Tex-Mex tunes his mother liked. Doc brought up the rear with the med bag, careful and quiet. None of us said the obvious. Night patrols got people killed. Night near water got people lost. Eyes left, Briggs said softly, like a teacher reminding us of the board. River, river, river. I looked until my eyes burned, until the shine of the water was just a smear. The jungle side of the road was safer to look at, if safe is the word for leaves dripping and shadows that didn't care you were there. We rounded a bend where the bank bowed closer. The road pitched. I had to angle my shoulders to avoid a curtain of bamboo that arched over us. That's where I saw her. Across the river, on the far bank, a woman sat facing the water. I didn't see her arrive. There was a patch of lighter dark over there, maybe sand, maybe a flat rock, and she was on it, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around herself. Her dress was light in color, white or cream, but wet and stained the color of clay. Long hair hung down her back like a soaked rope. I stopped. Everyone bumped to a halt behind me. "What?" Briggs said, more breath than voice. "Woman," I whispered. "A cross." Sanchez leaned to look past me. No way. At this hour? Doc didn't say anything. We weren't supposed to shout. We weren't supposed to shine lights across the water. The river made a distance that felt like a rule. We stood there, 4 shadows inside a blacker night, and the drizzle needled our faces. The woman didn't move. If not for the outline of her shoulders and the fall of her hair, I would have thought she was a post. "She'll hear us," Sanchez murmured. "Maybe she needs help." "Or maybe she's not there," Briggs said. "Harper, keep walking." But I couldn't, not yet. The woman's head tilted a fraction, as if listening. I held my breath without meaning to. She lifted her face. I didn't see features. There was too much drift in the air, too much rain. But it was the way she turned toward us without standing, without twisting her body, like the river had tugged her head up by a string. It was wrong the way a dead clock is wrong when you hear it tick. "Let's go," Doc said softly. First thing he'd said in 20 minutes. "We go now." We started again. I forced my eyes forward and fixed on Briggs's pack. We passed the pinch and the bamboo opened, and then there was nothing across the water. Not a patch of light, not a shape. When I looked back, the far bank showed only rivergrass combed flat by rain. "See," Briggs said. "Shadows. Your brain wants faces. That's all." My brain didn't feel like it wanted anything except to be somewhere else. We made the village before dawn, traded our orders, stamped papers for stamped crates, and waited under an overhang while a thin man with kind eyes and a conical hat tied twine around the boxes. He and Doc spoke in hand gestures and nouns. I heard one word twice, soft as breath: May. Ghost. I knew that one. You learn your bad words before your good ones. Briggs rolled his eyes at me. Don't look at me like that, Harper. Every culture's got ghosts. It keeps kids from playing in the road. It wasn't a road, I said. It was a river. He laughed once. A bark. Even better. We headed back heavier. Our packs bumped with glass clinks and dry paper. Dawn put color into the world. Everything was the color of wet rope and bruised leaves. The path was the same and not the same. When the sun is up, you think you dreamed the night. We didn't see the woman. We didn't talk about her until dark came back. We recorded 3 clicks upriver in a compound the French had left. It had a corrugated roof that turned drizzle into a low drum and walls that didn't keep out wind. Cots lined a long room like teeth in a skull. The generator coughed twice in the afternoon and gave us an hour of light that buzzed like bees. Then it slept, and so did the light. After chow, after letters that didn't say much, we lay in our racks and tried to pretend we could relax with steel between us and the weather. Sanchez tossed an extra blanket onto my cot. You still thinking about Lady River? Don't, Briggs said from the dark. You talk about a thing, you invite it. Doc chuckled without humor. Said the man who named the road after it. Briggs's voice shifted in the dark. It had to have a name. Sanchez did the humming thing, soft, apologetic. He was 3 cots down. I could see the shape of him when lightning flared, erased a half second later. The wind found new holes in the walls and slid cold along the floor. I slept and I didn't. You know that kind of night. You're underwater. You're on a train. You're in your rack. You're everywhere at once. The rain grew a mouth and said "cease, cease" against the metal roof. Something woke me exactly, like a hand on my shoulder. It was my radio. We weren't supposed to sleep with them on. Mine wasn't on. I kept it in my pack under my cot, wrapped in a poncho, a dead turtle shell that never made a sound unless someone asked it to. It clicked again, a polite knuckle tap. Then a wash of static filled the room, and the hairs along my arms lifted like they wanted to hear better. Briggs, I whispered. You hear that? Briggs didn't answer. Neither did Sanchez. Neither did Doctor. The static rose and fell in a tide, and inside it, something thin and high threaded through, a tune, a woman's voice singing low like a lullaby. I didn't know the words, but I knew what it was. My mother had sung, back before she got sick, when I was small enough to be carried. Every culture has a way to tell its babies, sleep, it's safe, I'm here. My mother used to hum, Hush, Little Baby. This was not that. This was older than that. The vowels curled like smoke from incense. It came from my pack. Briggs, I said, louder. Wake up. The room stayed a row of dark ribs in shadow. Outside, dot. The rain insisted. The lullaby drifted in and out as if someone tuned a dial with wet fingers. I rolled out of the cot and my feet hit cold concrete. I knelt and pulled my pack toward me. The poncho was tied shut. I had to pick at the knot. The melody came clearer like a mouth pressed to my ear. I smelled the river, a fresh cold damp that did not belong indoors. When I hauled the poncho aside, the radio sat where I'd left it, black and square, no light on its face. The dial was at off. That's what it said. The lullaby didn't care what it said.
Briggs, do you hear that?
What the hell is that?
What's that over there? The radio, but it...
That's not it. Turn it off.
It's off.
Then turn it off again.
A lullaby. It noticed me.
Enough.
It sounded like Kwai Lai. It meant come back. I didn't know that then. I learned later. Briggs finally found anger to armor his fear. Enough. He stomped the 3 steps between his cot and mine and reached for the radio like he'd rip its heart out. The lullabies stopped. Silence is loud when it comes that fast. We all held our breath like it was a blood pact. Then the radio clicked one last time, and a thin voice breathed in a slow, aching way, like someone who'd been underwater too long, like someone who had to remember how to use air. I turned the dial to on and off and on, just to see if the universe had rules left. The radio stayed honest under my hand, showing me its settings. When I lifted it, water dripped from the seam and tapped the floor 3 times. Cold soaked the hem of my sleeve. "Harper," Doc said, very calm. "Leave it alone. We'll look in daylight." "Daylight," Briggs echoed, but it didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a prayer. We didn't sleep much. I lay on my back and stared at the roof until the roof stared back. Every time a drip hit the concrete, I expected it to shape into a syllable. Every time the wind found a new seam, I expected it to slide under my blanket and press a palm flat on my chest. Near dawn, the generator coughed to life as if nothing in the world was wrong. A weak strip of light blinked along the ceiling, and the cots arranged themselves into rows again. Obedient, harmless. The radio was dry. My sleeve wasn't. Briggs made coffee that tasted like pennies and burned rope. Sanchez laughed at something in a letter from home and folded it slow, like he couldn't quite let the paper go. Doc cleaned his glasses and didn't put them on. He just held them and looked past them at the wall, as if there were something better beyond it. No one mentioned the lullaby. That was the first rule we learned that wasn't in any manual. If you gave the night a name, it would use yours next time. We were moving out by 7, packs squared, weapons checked, boots double knot. The river road waited the way roads wait, indifferent, patient, the same and not the same. When we reached the bend where the bamboo made a green tunnel, I didn't look across. I didn't have to. I could feel the weight of the far bank like someone watching me breathe. The drizzle came in from the water and kissed the side of my face. "Eyes left," Briggs said, and I kept mine straight ahead. We passed the pinch. For a heartbeat, the rain thinned, and I could hear the river's voice, slow and thick, like it spoke through sleep. Between one drop and the next, between one step and the next, a woman's voice floated across, no louder than breath. "Kilai." Sanchez turned his head. Doc grabbed his strap and hauled him forward like a father yanking a child from a curb. "What did she say?" Sanchez asked, trying to make it a joke and failing. Briggs didn't answer. I didn't either. I stared at the road until it was the only thing that existed, and the melody from the night uncoiled in the back of my skull like a ribbon dropped in water. We delivered the medicine and came home by the same road at noon. Sun made the world look harmless. That's how it tricks you. We ate in shifts and pretended not to yawn. The afternoon stretched thin and the jungle steamed, and every now and then the wind brought in a scent from the river that made the small hairs along my forearms stand up for no sensible reason. That night the radio behaved. We all did. But rules don't matter here. Not the ones you learn in a book. Not the ones you write for yourself in the dark. The river writes its own. We weren't done with her. We had only been introduced. The next assignment should have been routine. Nothing is routine here. We got orders to guard a shipment overnight. Not in the compound, not in a proper base, but in a place the French had abandoned long before. Locals called it a bench Vienne, a hospital. Half collapsed, half flooded, and all wrong. The courtyard was full of weeds, rebar sticking out like snapped bones. Windows gaped without glass. The wind carried rain inside where it should have stopped. We should have camped outside. But the captain wanted shelter. Shelter meant walls, even if those walls breathed. Inside, the hall smelled of mildew and old gauze. Paint blistered and peeled in hand-sized scales. Fluorescent tubes still clung to the ceilings, cracked like broken teeth. Our boots echoed where sickbeds used to be. I kept thinking of patients, thin men, children, staring at us with hollow eyes from beds that weren't there anymore. Briggs let us through like he knew the place, though none of us did. "Find a room that still has doors," he said. "Less draft." His voice bounced off the tiles and came back thinner. We found a ward that smelled only half as bad. 4 cots, rusted frames, mattresses gone. Rain had found holes in the ceiling and left black stains that looked like maps. Sanchez swept his hand across the wall. His palm came away green. Mold. Nice. Doc had his flashlight. The beam jittered across walls and froze on something that made my stomach clench. A mirror, taller than a man, still bolted to the wall. Silver backing corroded, glass spidered with cracks. But enough left to show us ourselves. I hated mirrors in this place. We'd all heard stories of soldiers seeing things they shouldn't. Double reflections, faces that weren't theirs. Briggs grinned at me in the glass. "Smile, Harper. Maybe the ghosts will smile back." I didn't smile. We unrolled ponchos on the cots and called it home. It was late afternoon and too wet to build a fire. The rain kept at the roof, 1,000 fingers drumming. Doc pulled out a deck of cards. Sanchez hummed. Briggs told a dirty joke I don't remember, only that it didn't land. We were all waiting without saying it, for the dark. When it came fast. The storm swallowed the sky. The last light clung to the windows like smoke, then died. We lit one lamp, kerosene. Yellow light barely touched the corners. The mirror caught it and made the room look bigger than it was. I avoided looking, but it's impossible to never look at a mirror. You always catch yourself. The first time I saw her face in it, I thought it was Sanchez. He'd leaned forward, humming under his breath. But the face in the mirror was a woman's, hair hanging wet, skin pale under streaks of mud. Her mouth moved with no sound. I flinched. The lamp guttered. When I looked again, only us, 4 men, tired, damp, pretending not to be afraid. I didn't mention it. Later, Sanchez muttered something in his sleep. Not Spanish, not English. Just 2 syllables over and over. Kilai, Kilai. It means come back. Doc shook him. Wake up. You're dreaming. Sanchez's eyes snapped open. I heard her, he said. She was right at my ear. None of us laughed. Even Briggs didn't. He just lit another cigarette and smoked like it could burn the memory out of him. The rain grew heavier. The hall outside filled with the sound of water finding holes, dripping, echoing, endless. Every so often, the mirror caught a flicker, someone passing behind us. But no one moved. We checked, twice, 3 times. Nothing there, nothing but our own shadows. Around midnight, I volunteered for first watch, mostly so I didn't have to sleep. I sat by the door with my rifle across my knees, lamp throwing weak light around me. The others tried to rest. The hospital creaked like it was still alive. Wind rattled windows. Water dripped in sync with my pulse. Then I heard it. A shuffle down the hall. Not wind, not rain. Bare feet on tile. I aimed the flashlight into the corridor. Nothing. Just the hall stretching into black. My light shook. I steadied it. When I turned back, the mirror caught my beam. For a heartbeat, there were 5 of us reflected. A 5th figure standing just behind my shoulder. A woman in white. Head tilted down, hair dripping. The lamp flickered once, twice. Then the glass cracked louder, as if something inside it wanted out. I dropped the light. By the time I grabbed it again, the mirror was empty. Just 4 tired soldiers, and me, shaking. I didn't tell them until morning. Morning never makes those places safe. It only makes you think it should. We left the hospital at first light. My eyes burned from staying awake. Briggs cracked a joke about ghosts not liking mornings. Nobody laughed. The road was mud. Our boots sank deep, and every tree seemed closer than it should be. We reached the compound by midday. Steel roof, sandbags, a radio tower that leaned like it was tired. It felt solid compared to the hospital, but not solid enough. Nothing out here ever is. Doc checked the medical crates. Briggs went to report. That left me and Sanchez in the barracks. He sat on his cot, elbows on knees, head low. The humming was gone. "You good?" I asked. He rubbed his arms. "Dreams. Bad ones." "What kind?" "The kind where you wake up and they don't stop." I waited, but he didn't say more. When he lifted his sleeve, I saw red lines across his forearm. Not scratches, not cuts. Imprints, like something had clamped down with wet fingers. 4 marks and a thumb. Clear. "You do that to yourself?" He shook his head. I dreamed she was holding me. I woke up with this. My mouth went dry. Briggs came in, grinning the way he did when he smelled fear. "You two gossiping?" He saw Sanchez's arm, and his grin faltered. "What the hell is that?" Sanchez covered it. "Nothing. Looks like something." Doc stepped in then, pushed past Briggs, and pulled Sanchez's arm up. His face went still. "Pressure marks," he said quietly. "But too deep, too clean." He let the sleeve fall. "Rest. That's an order." Briggs barked a laugh, too loud. "Ghost handprints. Jesus Christ. You all need better hobbies." But none of us laughed with him. That night, Sanchez tossed in his sleep. His voice came thin and cracked. "She's waiting by the river. She wants me back." I sat up. Sanchez. He jerked awake, eyes wide, hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. "You saw her too. Don't lie." I didn't answer. She said my name. His voice broke. "Harper, she knows my name." Briggs swore under his breath. "Shut up and sleep." Doc sat on the edge of his cot, glasses off, rubbing his eyes. "If this keeps up, we go to the captain. Something's wrong." But we never made it that far. Around 3 a.m., I woke again. This time, not to a radio, not to a dream. To silence. Thick, absolute. Sanchez's cot was empty. "Doc," I hissed. "He's gone." We scrambled out, rifles in hand. Briggs cursed, grabbing his boots. Then, the scream tore off into nothing, cut clean, like someone pressed a hand over his mouth. We bolted outside. Rain slapped our faces. The compound lights threw weak yellow into mud. Footprints led toward the river. Bare feet, not boots. At the water's edge, the prints ended. The mud was smooth after that, as if the river had licked them clean. No Sanchez. No splash. Just the wide, dark water, breathing slow. Doc knelt, running his hand over the prints. His fingers shook. He didn't walk out. He was pulled. Briggs whispered, so low I almost didn't hear. She took him. I wanted to shout, to deny it. But my throat locked. Because when I looked across the water, I swore I saw her. The white shape sat on the far bank, still as a statue, hair plastered to her face. In her lap, she cradled something small, like a child. The rain blurred everything. I blinked, and she was gone. Only the river remained. By sunrise, Sanchez was still gone. We searched until our boots filled with mud. The captain sent a squad up and down the river. Nothing. No body, no gear, no rifle. Just prints. That ended at the water. On the official report, they wrote, "Missing in action." But we knew missing isn't the same as taken. Back in the barracks, Sanchez's cot sat neat, blanket folded. Too neat, like he'd never used it. Only his boots remained, caked with dried mud, set side by side under the frame. Doc stared at them for a long time. He didn't put those there. Briggs said nothing. He just lit a cigarette and smoked until the filter burned his fingers. That afternoon, I lay back, eyes closed. I thought I slept, but a whisper woke me. It was right at my ear, Harper. I sat bolt upright, empty room, Briggs asleep, Doc writing in his journal. But my forearm itched. I pushed my sleeve up. Red letters pressed into my skin, faint but clear. K-Lie. The same words Sanchez had muttered in his sleep. I scrubbed at them until my arm bled. They didn't fade. I didn't tell the others, not then. That night, the rain stopped. The silence was worse. The jungle buzzed too loud, as if it wanted to cover something else. Briggs volunteered for first watch. I lay in my cot, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Every blink was a replay. Sanchez's prints ending at the river, that white shape cradling something in her arms. Then I heard it. Bare feet. I sat up. The sound came from outside the barracks, padding through puddles, slapping against the wet floor. Briggs froze at the doorway, rifle raised. "Who's there?" His voice cracked. No answer, just steps, circling. Doc whispered, "Sanchez?" The steps stopped. Then, every hair on my neck rose. It wasn't Sanchez. It wasn't any man. Briggs snapped. He yanked the door open, flashlight cutting the dark. The courtyard was empty. Puddles rippled, as if someone had just walked through. We slammed the door shut, barred it with a chair. None of us spoke for the rest of the night. By morning, command declared Sanchez non-recoverable. Another name on another page. But the three of us knew better. He hadn't deserted. He hadn't drowned. She had him. And she wasn't finished. 2 days after Sanchez vanished, we were sent to a nearby village to trade for food. Just another errand, but I knew better. The village clung to the riverbank. Huts raised on stilts, smoke curling from cook fires, children staring wide-eyed at us. I kept my rifle low. Even so, I felt unwelcome. That's when I saw him, an old man crouched by a shrine, lighting incense. His face was a map of wrinkles, eyes sharp as glass. He looked at me, then at my arm. I'd rolled my sleeve up in the heat. The red marks still burned there. Kue Lai. He muttered something in Vietnamese. I didn't understand, but his tone froze me. Doc, who knew a few words, leaned in. He's saying, "She called you." The old man shuffled to a small bundle wrapped in red cloth. He untied it with careful fingers, pulled out a strip of yellowed fabric covered in faded symbols. A charm. He pressed it into my hand. His English was broken, but clear enough. "Keep close to fire. She hates the heat." Briggs scoffed. "Really, Harper? You gonna wear that rag like it's magic?" I didn't answer. I tied it around my wrist. That night, back at the compound, the air was heavy and wet. No rain, but the smell of the river drifted through the open windows like breath. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sanchez's prints ending at the water. The charm itched against my skin. Then I heard it. I sat up. The barracks was dark, Doc breathing slow in his cot, Briggs snoring. The sound came from the far corner. Something moved there. I thought it was shadow. But then it shifted, unfolded, and I saw a hand, white, wet, fingers too long, sliding across the floorboards. It crept toward me, pulling itself with jerks, leaving a smear of water behind. Another hand followed. Then hair, slick and black, spilling forward like a curtain. I froze. My rifle leaned against the wall, too far to reach. The figure pulled closer. Water pooled under it. The air grew colder. "Briggs," I hissed. "Wake up." No response. He slept like the dead. The woman's face lifted, pale, eyes hollow. No mouth, just a smooth blank oval where lips should be. She reached for me. The charm on my wrist burned hot. The lantern on the table flared without warning, fire leaping high. The figure recoiled, shrieked like tearing metal, then dissolved into mist. The room went silent. Only the lantern crackled. Doc sat up, glasses crooked, staring. Briggs blinked awake, rifle in hand, swearing. "What the hell was that?" Briggs demanded. I looked at the charm. The fabric was smoldering at the edges, but intact. "She doesn't like fire," I said. My voice shook. The old man was right. But even as I said it, I knew a strip of cloth wouldn't be enough. She'd already taken one of us. And she wanted more.
This story comes to a close, but many other mysteries still await. If you'd like to join me through the nights to come, hit like and subscribe. Until we meet again.